I just got off a Flixbus at Union Station, and that's not the point of the trip. Very soon now, I'm going to be getting on a Green Line train going east, and that's just the beginning of the trip, so I'll say more when we get to the fun part. So right now I am on the Max Green Line, which goes to Clackamas Town Center, which is not where I'm going. I'm getting off in a minute in Gateway, where we've been before, and in Gateway I'm transferring to another bus, not in the Tri-Mate systems. So this, between downtown and Gateway, that was the train part of the journey on the Max. And if I can, I'm going to make a short little video just about Gateway, but I'm kind of in a hurry, and this bus that I'm getting on only comes every 90 minutes, so I'm not going to spend too much time kicking around here. And I'll talk more about the bus when I find it stopping stuff. So this is the way to the Columbia Gorge Express, which is this bus right here. And I'm going to not in too much of a hurry, still a couple minutes. So this bus goes to Hood River, and like some of the buses I take, like the bus to Newport, it kind of straddles the line between a city bus and a long distance bus. It is about 60 miles to Hood River, but this is a bus I don't need reservations for. I can just hop on, hop off. And I don't really know what it's going to be like, so we're about to find out what the bus to Hood River is like. Among other features, the bus does have USB. That might be important. And we are on our way. So right now we're in Troutdale on I-84, and Troutdale is the easternmost suburb of Portland, at least in this location. And if you look at this line of cliffs or bluffs here, this is that's where the Sandy River is, which is kind of the eastern limit, and we'll be crossing over that in a minute. And when we do, that is kind of where the Columbia River Gorge starts, and we'll just be going east on 84 for a while. Right next to the freeway, you can see there's a line of railroad tracks, and those are freight railroad tracks. They go out east, and on the other side of the river are the also freight but also passenger railroad tracks for the Empire Builder. But on this side, currently, these are only for freight. It's running low this time of year, but up there you can see one of the many waterfalls of the Columbia River Gorge. There's another one. That is Multnomah Falls. And here we have a parking lot. That's one of the reasons this bus exists, is because a lot of people want to come to the falls, and it can get congested here. I mean, it is a nice waterfall. So right now, as far as I know, we're still in Multnomah County, which is Oregon's smallest and most urban county, but about half the county just looks like this. You know, we're up in the Cascades of the Columbia River Gorge right now. So there's the Bridge of the Gods from the other side. And this is Cascade Locks. And this is in Hood River County now. We crossed a couple minutes ago. Well, I just got off the bus in Hood River. I'm going to go in here to get a schedule, and then I'm going to see what's going on in Hood River. Purple stop signs, apparently. So this is Hood River. I just got off the bus here. For some reason, I thought that the bus had to stop somewhere else. And so I thought I'd be right in the middle of downtown, and instead I'm here, which is tolerable. I'll go for a little walk. Hopefully this will lead me to the town, though. But maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a Peach Blossom Village scenario. Or, as we call it in the United States, last stop at Willoughby. So right here, before I even get to the center of town and make my introduction, See, we have a disc golf course on this side, skateboarding this side. Hood River, a lot of sports and activities here. That's one of the reasons why the city exists, and we'll see more of that. And we haven't gotten to downtown yet, but you can see a couple things from the hills here. The Columbia River is still at a gorge now. It's not as steep as it was a little bit to the west where it was rocky cliffs. We can still see we have these tall, impressive hills. You can also see that, like, you know, there's some bare patches here. So as you go through the Columbia River Gorge, the terrain and the weather changes quickly. So here it is a little bit drier than it would be in Portland. So here, or a little bit in distance, this is downtown Hood River. Let's see what's there. So a slight detour from seeing downtown. I'm going to go to the library. A lot of times one of the first places I go to in a new town to check out the, see if they have a walking map, for example. And also this park is like a pathway and a park that leads to a library. Beautiful landscaping, nice day. I'm enjoying being here, in case you can't tell. So as you can see from this date, 1913, County Library. This is a Carnegie Library, at least this half of it is. This half is modern. So of course, anytime I can see a Carnegie Library, I want to see it, and it was very nice. So this is downtown Hood River, big shopping and dining district here. And a few things to know about Hood River. Hood River County has a population of about 25,000 people. And the city of Hood River, where we are now, only has a population of 8,500 people. I learned that at the library and I was surprised. I thought it was about twice that. That's kind of deceptive though, because this is a big tourist town. So on an average day, there's people here from all over, both local tourists coming from Portland, and then people coming from all over, especially for sports tourism, which we will see soon. And we're about 50 miles east of Portland, and so the climate here is already getting a little bit more dry and sunny. This street here is also on the historic Columbia River Highway, which goes through the Columbia River Gorge, has some very beautiful and scenic places and some good nature access. And so for a lot of people, they've seen places on the Columbia River Gorge, and you come here at dinner to eat and drink. And I've walked out of town just a little bit. This is Hood River, the river Hood River, not the town Hood River or the county Hood River. And this kind of forms the eastern bank, and beyond that, the town kind of goes away. So this is the eastern border of the town, and it's going to join the Columbia right past there, and we will probably go and see that. Also, right here and out of sequence, you can see there are some railroad cars. There's also a caboose there. But over here we can see three railroad cars, 3 passenger cars, and a flatbed car. That one actually has Amtrak livery, and the other 2 say Mount Hood Railroad, which is an excursion railroad based here in Hood River, and we're actually going to go see the train depot and talk about it. So here we have the Mount Hood Railroad Depot. Up until 1997 and the cancellation of Oregon Pioneer Service, this was an active Amtrak station. And you can see here the 2 railroad lines divide. The line that goes that way to the left, that is the main line, that goes to Boise, Salt Lake City. And then the one that veers off to the right and goes to the south, that goes up the river valley, and that's where the excursion railroad goes. You can see there's scenic tours here. They also have railroad bikes, where you actually have a 4-legged or 4-wheeled bicycle, which isn't really a bicycle, that goes on railroad tracks but is pedaled. So apparently there's a lot of things you can do here, and they operate 3 days a week in the summer. So if I had the time and money, and I was, you know, that type of tourist, that is something I would do. And also, you know, there's a lot of places that could possibly use Amtrak service. And on the other side of this river, we do have Bingham White Salmon Station on the Empire Builder. So this might not be the most necessary Amtrak station, but, you know, just being here, I wish we did have Pioneer service again. Just a thought. So right now we're crossing over I-84. and I'm gonna head down to the Columbia and I'm gonna see some windsurfers if there's some out, and I imagine there are windsurfers and kite surfers. So this is one of the main deployment points for kite surfing, windsurfing, kayaking, paddleboarding, what have you. A lot of very fun and very expensive sports. It's also probably so windy you can't hear what I'm saying, so I'm going to return back to town. But this is very active area for this place. Very active place for this activity because this is one of the ideal conditions climatically in the US where there's always good wind and usually warm sunny weather too. So a lot of people here. This is a very nice artificial waterfall. Might actually be a natural stream, but obviously the waterfall is artificial. And then right here we have a staircase. I'm going to follow this staircase and see where it goes. Well, the Indian Creek Trail is what I'm looking for. It is a pretty steep staircase, but it's going where I'm going. Right now it's only 2 p.m. So today's still going to get a little bit hotter. Like I said, there's a nice breeze here. Well, sometimes there's a lot of wind, but it is also hotter. Usually it's clearer, but today it's kind of muggy. So right now, a little bit of discomfort. Okay, here it says the trail is to the left, which means I don't have to continue climbing. I perhaps will though, because the climbing might save me some time, because I don't want to go downhill and then go back uphill. In fact, right now I kind of don't want to go anywhere. This apparently is Wilson Park. I got to the top of that hill and now I'm in a residential neighborhood at the crest of the hill. I'm actually curious, who lives in neighborhoods like this. Based on real estate prices in Oregon, it looks like this would be pretty expensive to live in. And I guess along with the tourism business, which, hires people, I think that you probably have a lot of retired people here. It is kind of a resort or retirement community. But I also want to say, even though now I'm outside of the intentionally cute tourist district, this town has a good vibe and I'm pretty happy to be here. Now, I've said this a lot, and I've lived it. A lot of times I go to these tourist towns or resort towns, vacation towns, and they look really nice, but I have to ask, well, what do the people here do, once you've done all the fun stuff? So, living here might be a little bit more difficult, cost of living, lack of job opportunities outside of a couple of fields. So there are questions like that, but hey, I'm only here for a couple hours. I can just pretend this is perfect. This says 7th Street, and there was a trailhead on my map, Google Maps, an entrance to the Indian Creek Trail. So I'm going to walk this way and see what that looks like. And it might be actually pretty steep, but hey, don't get to come here often, so I'm up for a challenge. Well, this looks like a trailhead. It does look like there's going to be a descent, and I still have 90 minutes until the first bus option comes, and then another hour after that. So if it does get to be too rough, I'll just head back a little bit later. I did include myself a buffer, but let's head down into the canyon, see if it cools off down there maybe. I don't know what this is, but it isn't a real log. One other thing to say about this trail is that in many ways this is familiar to me. Look, we have a big leaf maple, but look at this right here. We have some type of legume tree, a locust of some sort, possibly a walnut. I should know the difference. Can't see any walnuts on there. But in any case, so one of the points of that is Hood River gets about 30 inches of rain a year. Portland gets 40. And Cascade Locks, just 20 miles to the west, gets 80 inches of rain a year. And then as you go east out of Hood River, you get less and less until a little bit east of the Dalles. Really only 25 miles east of here, you're getting less than 10 inches of rain a year, which is desert conditions. So right here, we're in a transition zone between basically temperate rainforests along the ridge of the Cascades, and then here we're getting into the rain shadow, and it quickly shifts to actually where it's a desert and no trees can grow. So this looks a lot like a lot of Pacific Northwest forests that I'm used to, but it's a little bit subtly different. Even when the trees are the same, there's a different growing pattern. And if I had more time here, I could probably come up with more specific examples of that. But to me, it's kind of clear. Yeah, we're getting into a little bit of a different climate zone here. And that is one thing that's very different about Oregon and the Pacific Northwest in general, is that, you know, if you go from one end of Missouri or Indiana to the other, you're going to see some slight differences in climate and vegetation. But then compare that to here, where you can go 40 or 50 miles and you can go between rainforest and desert. As the joke goes, and I'll repeat it, Oregon is a land of contrasts. So after that, getting off that trail, which was only like half a mile, and didn't involve much descent as I thought it might, we're back in town. We're in a different part of town. Still pretty dense, but not the tourist district. This is also apparently one of the Latino districts of Hood River, but that's actually pretty much all of the city. About 1/3 of the population of the city and the county is Latino, which is pretty common in Oregon in small towns, but this one it's more marked. I already said in terms of climate and flora, this area is kind of in a transitional zone. This is kind of the Willamette Valley, but kind of not. I mean, it's not literally the Willamette Valley, it's the Hood River Valley, but it's a lot like the Willamette Valley, but it is different. And that's also true socially. And one thing about that is for like people in Portland and stuff, you go to Canby and that's the ends of the earth. But when you look at Oregon in the big picture and you look at places like Yachat, Depot Bay, Silverton, McMinnville, Hood River, all of these places are, you know, places where people can still get to Portland pretty easily, so they still have access to those services. And so Hood River, you know, so as far as the social and political vibe, it's mostly like you're still, you know, in the Willamette Valley, but it is in a lot of ways a transitional zone, and that really probably varies from person to person. There are probably a lot of people in Hood River who go to Portland every week, and there's probably people here who go maybe once a year. So, you know, that's where this is. It's another kind of piece of how Oregon is very faceted. Just for example of that, you have Providence Hood River Hospital. Now, of course, Providence, which is based in Portland, exists everywhere now. It's up in Alaska. But this city is large enough that you still have pretty big hospital. And, you know, there's also a community college here. So in terms of services and stuff, you still have some services, just not quite what would you have in a city like Portland. But it's still more than in, like, you know, towns not that far from here where you don't even have a grocery store and you have to drive an hour to get to a grocery store. So Hood River is still urban in that sense. So right here, if I lived on this street and I had a job, say, teaching ESL, the local community college, I think that would be everything I could ask for in life. This is apparently Suruta Park, which I'm guessing means crane and field, and one of many little parks around the city. And also, this might seem like a minor thing, but if you look at like a drinking fountain like this, works perfectly. All the drinking fountains I've come across in this city have worked. So the tourism is not just gloss. There's like a lot of little services that make this just a really pleasant place to hang out as far as comfort and just beauty. So the reason it's Suruta Park, which I still think means crane field, is that that's the sister city of this city. So I'm pretty close to the bus station, bus stop again. One thing to mention, you know, like I mentioned with a lot of towns, you know, there really is nice residential neighborhoods, a lot of places to walk. There's a nice downtown, tourist-oriented, but nice downtown, public areas. But just like any medium-sized city, we do have this area. Like I usually say, I'm not insulting it, just want to point out, a lot of tourist towns, they do have this area too. Okay, well, I'm going to continue this way. This looks like a trail that leads somewhere. Let's find out. Still have over half an hour, so I can get a little lost. Oh yeah, so that's the skate park that I saw right when I got off the bus. So yeah, just have to head down this hill. And even though there's more I'd like to see in this city, right now I'm tired enough that I can probably just wait and not be impatient. Well, I'm back at the Columbia Area Transit bus station. It's kind of between a bus station and a bus stop conceptually. Anyway, I'm waiting for this bus. I probably won't have a lot more to say. I'm actually going to make some other semi-related videos in Portland, I hope, but this is kind of the end of this video. And the main thing I would say is, wow, I mean, Hood River, there's a lot of natural history here. There's a lot of cultural history, including pre-European cultural history. And there's a lot just to see in the modern town just as a tourist. And obviously I was only here for a couple hours. And the main point I guess I would make, you know, cliche but true, there's a lot of Oregon that you can see with a little bit of effort that people don't see a lot of times. This is just an hour east of Portland. You can get here on public transit. Great place to see. And every time you see one of these places, it's a little bit different. And, you know, even though I've seen so much, it's like every place I go, it's a little bit different, and it kind of expands my horizon. And hey, if you're in the Portland area and you can come here, you know, check it out. That's what I would say.